Good afternoon and welcome to another episode of the Idaho House Republicans podcast, where you get to learn a little bit more about the legislators that you sent to the State House. And today we are blessed to have Representative Jeff Cornilles, who is a Legislative District 12, Seat A, and he is a second termer.
Yep.
And let me tell you a little bit about Jeff. Jeff is a fourth generation Nampa resident. So that's when there was only 1,000 people there. Now there's 100,000. He is a graduate of Nampa High. You went to the University of Idaho.
Yep.
So I'm seeing an Idaho trend here, Jeff.
Right.
And you're a small business owner, and you are all things Nampa. So you're on the Nampa Chamber of Commerce. You're on the Rotary. You're the Impact Fee Advisory Committee, Development Corporation, Urban Renewal Agency. How do they do anything without you there, Jeff?
They've managed before.
They have? Okay. Well, I don't know.
But it's been fun.
Seems like it's tough. Anyway, you have a lovely wife, Carrie Ann. You've been married 7 years. You have 5 children, 7 grandchildren.
Yep.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, it is.
So
fantastic.
First thing we like to start with is Representative Cornilles is, what is Legislative District 12 like? Where is it? Is it urban, rural? What do your constituents care about?
Yeah, District 12 is basically 12th Avenue, right down Nampa, the middle of Nampa, Greenhurst, which is out near the lake, and then north towards the freeway, and a little bit into the edge of Caldwell. And mostly subdivisions and now sparse farmland in between. It's pretty diverse, but a lot of urban. Yeah.
Your seatmate, Jaron Crane, was saying that it's some of the finest seed growing soil in the entire world. How about that? He said, unfortunately, a lot of it's under concrete now, but.
Yeah. And I just heard that this summer. I spoke at a Republican women's luncheon in Caldwell, and one of the other speakers was George Crookham from Crookham Seeds. And they're like a 5th generation seed company in Caldwell. And he has a wonderful PowerPoint on that land. And there's a big, and I don't even know exactly where it's at in the Nampa Caldwell area, but it has the right pH soil. It has water through the growing season and then the seed season, which is past the growing season.
Right.
So like in Iowa, they can grow corn 12 feet tall, but they can't grow the seed for the corn.
And we can do that?
And we can do that. And there's like 12 or 15 crops to the world where the seeds come from that space in Canyon County.
Incredible.
Starting to encroach on that and sell some of that off. And it's trying to figure that out is going to be an issue.
Representative Cornilles, what do your constituents care about? What drives that? Why do they send you to the State House? What do they want you to defend?
They want to defend Idaho values.
Mm-hmm.
They want schools and a great place to live and raise your families like I grew up and my parents grew up. They want a close community. They want it to be safe. They want recreation. They want good commerce. They want vibrant downtowns, roads and bridges like everybody else.
Yeah.
They want it all because we have it all here and we want to retain that.
Tell people about the committees on which you serve here in the House. What committees are you on?
I'm on the House Rev and Tax Committee and the House Business Committee and local government.
And you're the vice chair of that. Yes?
I am vice chair of that.
So tell people a little inside baseball. I know that the Speaker of the House picks the chair. Mm-hmm. How does the vice chair of a committee get chosen? Does the Speaker do that, or do the committeemen choose the vice chair?
The leadership, so Speaker on down to majority leadership, gets to pick that or ask if somebody is a good candidate for that. And so then they just appoint people and yeah.
Well, being on the Nampa Chamber of Commerce and the Rotary and the Impact Fee Advisory Committee, Development Corp, Urban Renewal Agency there in Nampa, you know a little bit about local government. So I think that's a good choice.
It is a good choice.
You're also a small business owner. So what is your business?
Yeah, we do insurance work for small corporations, like all the employee benefits.
Good. Well, we're going to actually talk about a couple insurance issues coming up, not necessarily the business insurance, but insurance related. So that must ring a bell for you. Let's talk about that first, the business committee, some of the bills, and let's talk about 2 insurance ones. One is House Bill 619. It deals with the insurance for wildfires, and it wants to create what's called a fortified property fund. Tell us about that and whether you think that's a good idea.
I think it's a great idea. It stems from all the issues we've had in the West with wildfires in the last so many years. It sets aside money. The Department of Insurance will set aside money in a fund that helps people harden their homes. So if they're in an area where there's possibly going to be a wildfire. They're at risk. And what happens now is insurance companies are raising the rates just because they're in risk of having a structure fire or whatever on their property. So this fund would give people some means to go in and harden, clear out brush and trim trees and do the things they need to do to their property in hopes that those carriers will bring the rates down.
And where would the money that comes for that fortified property fund, where would it come from?
The Department of Insurance is putting that money out there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, what's interesting is anybody can do this. You can go on the legislative session. You can look up the bills and then look up a bill number, and it'll show you the text of the bill, the statement of the purpose of the bill, and the sponsors on the bill.
Right.
So if you look at the statement of purpose on this bill, you'll notice that it doesn't show a representative running the bill, but rather it shows, like you said, the Department of Insurance as the sponsor of the bill.
Right.
Is that unusual, or is that a kind of normal when it comes to an agency that wants to get something done on behalf of Idahoans?
Good question. Agencies do that all the time. Sometimes they ask for a sponsor, but the director, Dean Cameron, is an insurance guy by nature.
Yes.
I kind of grew up in the business with him. He's in Eastern Idaho. I'm in Southern Idaho. So he knows insurance amazingly well. And he's a great presenter. He's been in the Senate. He knows how things work here.
Right.
And he knows insurance. So he's a perfect one for that.
So that bill should make it to the governor's desk. That's your feeling.
I'd be shocked if it doesn't.
So there's another bill, which was kind of a companion, it sounds like, because it's Bill 618, and the bill we just discussed was 619. And that is a transparency for insurance rates setting where they want the underwriters to be more transparent about the impact of the fire risk model and how that would affect an underlying person's rates. So I guess what it wants to have the underwriting insurance kind of show the wildfire risk model to the potential client. So talk about that and what you think about that bill.
I think it's a good bill. I had never thought about it in this way, but it will make insurers have to justify why they're setting the rates.
Right.
And the Department of Insurance will oversee that, what I understand, and make sure that it's appropriate.
It's transparency.
It's transparency.
Like this is what you're paying for.
And we have to have transparency.
And then you can obviously then have your day in court if you believe that the risk model is inappropriate for your particular.
Yeah, and with the Department of Insurance behind you.
So another one that came through, I believe the Business Committee, was House Bill 615, and it was about disturbing the peace in a worship service and making that where it would be a misdemeanor if you did that. Talk about that bill and what it's trying to do and whether you support that.
I do support that. What I understand, because it's, all of this is pretty new, but it would just keep bad actors from showing up at church and trying to protest.
And we saw what happened in Minneapolis.
Yeah.
We don't want that to happen here.
We don't want that to happen here. So it's just trying to preempt that.
Right. And you have a First Amendment right of expression of your religion and should not be disturbed. And it's not a public place where you can just go and protest. It's a religious service, and it should be treated. As a sacred space.
Yep.
Now, it's kind of fun. Last week, my niece came through, and I think you actually met her. And there was a bill that's coming through, House Bill 616, which would create an interior designer certificate. It would allow someone to get certification. You don't have to. It doesn't, but it would allow you to say, "Hey, I've got the schooling, I've got the training, I did the hours. Here's my certificate," and also it allowed me to sign off on my own work.
Yeah.
Right. So talk about that bill that came through the business and just how it is that normal Idahoans can really get engaged in the process.
Yeah, it was amazing. And I love those interactions just walking around here because it happened today on the House floor. Yeah, these young ladies were in the hallway and I stopped and asked them what they're doing. And they told me they're U of I students with a interior design program, and I used to be in the landscape architecture program, so that was right next door. So I understood kind of what they're talking about.
Yep.
So they told me that what they're doing here is to actually be able to sign their own drawings and have that be the end of it, not having it go to an architect, which would also add more cost.
Right.
But also, it's advertising for these people who have spent years and years in school, many, many sleepless nights in the architecture program.
It's a tough one.
It's a tough one. And they do have all the education they need to be able to sign those, and I think they should. Yeah.
And so you're obviously very supportive of that.
Absolutely.
Of that bill. Let's just take up one bill I think that's kind of interesting. It's about property rights, landowners, annexation, all thrown into a mix. Tell us about that. I think it was a bill that Representative Ehart is bringing.
Yeah, it's a good bill. It happens all the time in communities that are growing. You have a property owner that's been there for decades and the city is growing.
Right.
And so now there's new developments in or around that property or past that property. The city wants to get services to the new development and they're going right by the old farmstead. And cities are trying to make the farmstead connect to services at a cost of $15,000 to $30,000, whatever that number is. And some of these people just can't do it.
Right.
They have to sell the property, whatever they have to do just to do that. So this bill says that they don't have to do that. They can stay on their septic system. They can redo their septic system, but they do not have to sign up for city services.
And so that's a property rights bill.
Absolutely.
Very important. And you expect that to do well in the committee and on the floor?
I think so. Yeah, it should.
Let's just kick it back to the rev and tax. There is a bill that when the big, beautiful bill was signed, you have to conform to this. Mm-hmm. And conformity means you're going to basically treat it the same way the federal government would. Talk about the conformity bill and what you thought of that and the fact that it did pass.
The conformity bill is big. It's part of the big, beautiful bill. And it just says that they want us all to conform to that. And we're trying, but it's taken money off the table for the state of Idaho that we had there. So we need to conform at some degree. That's why we went from a robust balance to a little deficit.
Right.
So again, it's going to be a dip in, we're going to have to make some hard decisions of where to cut budgets so we can conform to this. But I think it's going to be short-lived because our economy is still doing great.
It's still good.
The projections are great moving forward.
Right.
So it should be, the pain should be relatively short-lived.
There's a great resource on the legislative website. You can look at the budget monitor and it shows how the revenue's coming in every month relative to expectations. And fortunately, in December, it was showing a $40 million projected end of the year deficit. Luckily, over the last 2 months, it's improved to $120 million surplus. Right. So Idaho is really well known for a low tax burden. We've had $6 billion of tax cuts over the last 5 years. And this year, the tax cut's going to come from the big, beautiful bill, $155 million, $175 million next year projected. That's from the federal government. And we like to do our own tax cuts here in Idaho.
We do.
So do you expect to see anything where we might see some attempt at more tax cuts for Idaho?
I'm anticipating there will be something because that's
what we do.
That's what we do. And, we try to give money back or let constituents keep money in their pocket, which is what we should be doing.
Right.
So we'll figure that out. It might be small. It probably will be small, but we will keep working on that. And then when the revenues come back and our big, beautiful bill is paid for, then we'll keep on down that road.
Last question I have for you, and I should have asked this much earlier, is that why did you decide you want to become part of the State House?
I was asked by a bunch of constituents I know in the business community, just because I have knowledge of my home and my hometown.
You do.
And I know the people. I didn't just move here and I didn't just get selected by people. I was asked by people engaged in the community. And those are the same people that come to me with bill ideas, like the couple that came to me this last summer that had a issue with Crohn's disease and going into a business shopping when you have an attack of a bowel kind of related thing.
Right.
It's an immediate thing.
Right.
You don't have time. The business they were in had an employee-only bathroom. They had no access. They couldn't use it. And it was a problem. So this bill just simply says if you have an employee-only bathroom and it's accessible to people, they don't have to go through a warehouse and all through your security tightened up part of your business, that they have to let you in to use the restroom if you have a card.
And that's a bill you're running right now.
Yeah.
It's interesting. We've had this theme over and over again with these discussions. Representative Cornilles says that the average citizen in Idaho just approaches their representative, said, here's an issue that we have. And it's just wonderful that you can write bills for your constituents.
Yeah, I love that. We met this summer after I got an email and we talked, and then we met for coffee a couple times, and and they're going to actually be here in a week or two to testify.
So so the bill's through the committee and has a bill number?
It has a bill number.
Okay, so we'll watch for that bill.
Yeah.
Just thank you all for joining us on the Idaho House Republicans podcast. We've just had a delightful conversation with Representative Jeff Cornilles, who represents Legislative District 12 in Seat A. He's in his second term, and he is all things Nampa. Just trust me. And he's been doing great work on the local government, business, and revenue and tax committee. And we just thank you for spending us with some time with us. And we thank you for joining us on the Idaho House Republicans podcast. And as we always say before we sign off, God bless the great state of Idaho. And thank you again, Representative Jeff Cornilles.
Yeah, thank you.
Sunrise on the Snake River plain, red, white, and blue in the window pane. Work boots dusty from yesterday, but we're back at it the Idaho way.